Well, that's the fun part of these podcasts, right? Is we can go down so many rabbit holes, and it's amazing. And hopefully, people are getting value from this. But to wrap up my dad's story, and then I'm going to do a quick kind of rapid fire. But basically, my dad grows up foster care, and here's the fun part: a mentor came into his life. Duh, duh, duh. It was his foster mother, and my grandma Ida is no longer with us. She was I could have been Matthew Lopez, just so everyone's aware. I'm Matthew Balducci, but I could have been Matthew Lopez. People would have been so damn confused. But my grandma Ida, amazing woman. We're talking angel, literally an angel on earth. And it was the most beautiful thing. And I know I'm going on another tangent, but she actually had a book with all the kids that she fostered and their story. She fostered over 350 kids. And at Christmas, when I grew up, we would get together. And here's the fun part. She would have some of those kids that were only with her for a year and a half. They would come. And my dad would be like, hey, this is your Uncle John. This is your Aunt Laura. This is this. This is that. And again, obviously, it's not like we were close with them by any stretch. But what that meant is my grandma Ida's, again, was the mentor. Okay. And she came in and she saved my father. Her husband gave my dad a decent example. Unfortunately, he had passed away really young, but he gave him an example, and he didn't have a father figure example at the time because and again, my dad, shares these stories. But long story short, with my dad, one, thank you, Dad, but thank you, Grandma Ida, up in heaven. I can't wait to see you again. But she took him under her wing and raised him, and he was with her till he was 18. She was going to adopt him at 17. It just didn't make sense logistically at that point because he was going to be independent anyway. And he goes off and, he's been working since he was young, probably even earlier than 14, but working. He couldn't even play sports in high school. He got recruited multiple times. We're big boys, the Balduccis, and he couldn't even play sports because he had to work and earn money. And so essentially, though, as that kind of progressed, he became an alcoholic. My dad did in his early 20s in a legitimacy, like just drinking. And at 25 years old, I wasn't born. I think he was 27 when me and my brother came. But at 25 years old, he cold turkeyed stopped drinking, and he hasn't drank since. And I think he's almost 70. He's like 65 right now. So amazing. He hasn't touched a drink. Nothing. And so I don't drink anymore. I know, Ruslan, you don't drink. That's not, I tell men out there, try not to drink if you can. But at the end of the day, people ask all the time, Matt, why don't you drink? And I'm like, I just grew up in a house where it wasn't even there. It's no negative to it. I don't judge guys who drink. It's just more of, I didn't see my dad come home and crack a beer at night. It just wasn't a normal thing versus I know a lot of guys, that's maybe what your example was. Pop comes home, sits on the couch, throws the game on, drinks a beer. I didn't really see that. So for me, it was very easy to stop drinking. I stopped drinking because I did bodybuilding, and I gave it up for health purposes. But basically, and I know you I don't think you've ever touched a drink, Ruslan. That's a whole nother fun story. But I don't know if you want to share on that a little bit. But
yeah. I mean, I've tried here, I just, one thing I can't understand about drinking, and again, I know Matt always says, no judgment.
But we're judging you. No, I'm just kidding.
I kind of am. I don't get the taste aspect. So I've never even got past that because I just don't get the taste of, doesn't matter for hard A, beer. So I just never even got to the next, getting drunk, getting tipsy. So for me, just the taste was just, I don't know. I look at it now as a blessing. I got blessed that I think it's not a taste I would want. So I just stayed away from it.
Yeah, no, I think it's again, it's funny. I say no judgment, but we're judging. No, I'm just kidding. No judgment, seriously, on this one. Like the only thing is if it becomes a problem, that's when it's more of like, hey guys, let's hook it up. Like if it's affecting your energy, if it's affecting your ability to be a father, if it's affecting your ability to show up for your wife, if it's creating a struggle for you to pursue greatness, that's where I think it's a problem. But all right, so to wrap the pop story up here, he stops drinking, meets my mom. I hope my parents are okay with me sharing. They had us before they got married. And we were 1 year old. And here's the truth. My dad just told me this story because I've been prodding harder now because I want to really know the situation. Like, it's just who I am. And I asked him, I said, what happened when mom got born? Because she already had my brother Rito, who is my next mentor, but he was 7 or 8, and she was a single mother with a kid. And all right, so this is going to be, do not get offended, people, but if you're a young man listening to this podcast, okay, and I'm going on a tangent here. If you're a young man listening to this podcast and you aren't married yet, my suggestion, even though my dad is a man and adopted my brother and changed his life, I'm not saying you can't do that, but trust me on this, it is a challenge to marry a single mother with a kid, because that kid, right, it's a hard relationship. So that'll be another podcast. I just personally would not, if I was single and I was in my 20s, I would not marry a woman who has kids. Again, please don't be offended, ladies, if you're a single mother. There's just so much stuff that we can get into on another podcast. But my dad did. He had us. He impregnated my mom, and I have a twin brother, and they had us. My dad told me he went to my grandma Ida, again, his mentor, and he told her, "Hey, Mom, I got this woman pregnant. What should I do?" And he's like, I don't know if I want to be a dad. I think it's funny. I'm gonna cry a little bit, but he's like, I don't know if I want to be a dad. I think I'm probably just gonna, let him. I think I'm gonna tell her, hey, I don't want him. And my grandma Ida said, well, honey, do you want, do you want to leave them like you got left? And it was a mic drop, and my dad sat with it, and he went and he said, no, you know what? I'm gonna man up, and I'm gonna raise these boys. And here's the truth is, I'm getting the shivers, and it's just beautiful, because he could have walked out and we would have been raised by a single mother, no judgment, but completely different life. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here probably today. I would have grew up, probably got in some gang stuff, and not because my mom's not amazing, but it's just been proven. Okay. And again, I would have went through a crazy different life. Who knows? I don't want to put crazy scenarios, but that changed my life. And then he adopted my older brother, and my older brother is a phenomenal human himself, but he grew up fatherless until he was 8 or 9. And for the men out there, if you have young kids, this is a whole nother side tangent. I know I'm going into these side tangents, but 0 to 7 years old is by far the most important time that you have with your kids, is 0 to 7. By the time the kid hits 7, they go from theta brain into our current brain. I think it's called alpha brain. I might be botching that. So for the scientists watching, you can correct it in the comments. But they go from theta brain, which means that theta brain is like when you're half asleep, where they're learning. They're so absorbent, and they are literally studying everybody around them, and they're creating their personality type. If you go meet Matt and Ruslan at 7 years old, we're probably the same guys we are today. It sounds crazy, I know. And some people are like, well, that sucks. You're locked in at 7. That's the most important time of development for the kid. So my brother had no dad for that important season of his life. And my dad came in, and I believe my dad was an angel and gave him a father figure. And my brother, again, this is too much. I got to be careful, personal stuff. So long story short, he took forever to have kids, and he just had one. And here's the truth. He's the best dad ever. And it's interesting because my dad was awesome and gave us an example of what a father was. And my dad busted his ass. He's a mechanic, didn't make much money, but he was at things. He loved us unconditionally. My mom, same thing. And we were blessed. So that's my dad's story. He's the man. My book's coming out in October. Little self shout out. First chapter is going to be talking about him, because he's the man.